Nowhere to run to, baby. Nowhere to hide.
Good morning, Internet! Salty Seaman back here with you again with another military movie bullshit, looking at a childhood favorite, Good Morning Vietnam, starring Robin Williams. Very big favorite of mine from my late my tweens into my early teens. Still like it today. This movie is I have done movies before that are loosely based on true stories, but this one, let's take a look at the facts and movie magic that is of Good Morning Vietnam. So this, like I said, this movie is based on a real person, though the movie itself is nearly completely fictional. So instead of going through every single thing, that'll be wrong. Just letting you know, everything is there's almost nothing about reality in this movie except that an airman named Adrian, who was a DJ, went to Vietnam for about a year and did his time. It's pretty interesting to look at not just this movie, but just some fun comparison to reality and and Hollywood military movie magic. Adrian Cronauer is a member of my career field in the military, which would now be multimedia specialist, but he was a Air Force broadcast specialist. He served in Greece before he went to Vietnam. That part is true. The movie does mention he was previously stationed in Greece. But if you look at the whole thing, I mean, there's so very little about it that is actually real, other than the name of the guy and his DJ career. First off, I mean, this is basically, let's face it, the reason we really like this movie is Robin Williams' his improv, his riffing as pretending to be a radio DJ, and that's essentially what you got. Like it's basically a what if Robin Williams was a radio DJ in Vietnam in 1965. It's pretty much the movie we got. Very well known. The DJ bits, which are the most famous, are pretty much done. It's pretty much riffed on, improved, off the cuff, what you will, from Mr. Robin Williams. Of course, he was nominated for an Academy Award for that role. He would not win one until Good Will Hunting. But nevertheless, just getting nominated for a comedy role is like amazing in Hollywood anyway. Digressing. But anyway, as a person who was a radio DJ for the military up until 2016, I can tell you a lot of things he said still wouldn't fly today, much less back then. So so take that also with a grain of salt. Adrian Cronauer was not that outrageous on AFN Air as Robin Williams' comedy would lead you to believe, but he was, mostly what the movie does kind of sort of get right, and it was, but nothing like had actually happened, was the change in format, as AFN was still pumping out basically what would be oldies at this point. We see a little bit of that in the movie too. Polka, big band swing. I mean, it was not with the times whatsoever. And when he got there as a DJ, he was like, hey, why aren't you playing music the troops want to hear? These are all 18, 19-year-old kids. They don't want to hear, this old folk music here in 1965. They want the current stuff. And, basically what he did was, he did it very professionally and presented it to his supervisor at AFN at Vietnam, and they agreed. And he was the first DJ to play current popular music for the troops, and he was a bit of a character on there. He was a very, very good DJ by all accounts. He was pretty funny. He did have the catchphrase "Good Morning Vietnam" because he was the morning DJ of AFN Vietnam, or AFRTS Vietnam, whatever it was back then. So the rest of this movie, we're dealing with a lot of Hollywood writing and padding out an idea for a film with a great actor, with great material, with, unfortunately, a lot of bullshit. But at least the Robin Williams bits are funny. Let's take a look at a few things. Were there people who didn't particularly like him? Yes, this is also true. Nothing like the movie. And, of course, he never did some of the things in the movie that, would have gotten Robin Williams' version of Airman Cronauer kicked out. including reading unauthorized, war casualty count. And of course, it turns out he's been friends with a member of the Viet Cong his entire time there.
This will not look good on a resume!
None of that is true. He went there, did his year in country, was a great DJ, changed the format, and left. So those parts of the movie are vaguely correct. He was, did he witness a bombing? He wasn't involved. It wasn't involved in the movie that close, but he did witness it. I do believe he did do volunteer work teaching kids English. Nothing like it's presented in the movie where he's basically doing it trying to get a date. I've never heard anything like that, but apparently there was, one of his collaterals on his thing was he was a volunteer English teacher, I believe. I should also mention before his death, Adrian was pretty good about coming back to the Defense Information School in the military and give once a year or once every couple of years, he'd come give a graduation speech to a group of one group of broadcast graduates. He was always a cool guy. I worked with the military throughout the rest of his career, and Vietnam veteran organizations as well. First thing, the movie starts off, again, a little bit of a nod to just kind of the mentality that the military broadcasting had back then, which was very, very stiff. It was very much based on the big wigs of the day. It's kind of, the military broadcast, we follow civilian commercial trends, so it makes sense. So the DJs were all very prim and proper. But again, in 1965, everything felt dated. It was very late 40s, very 50-ish. They were still in that mode. By 1965, the military's, among other things, but particularly in this instance where the military was basically a decade behind in the broadcasting field. So one of the things, besides getting the movie made about him, one of the great things Adrian did was besides the music, was his take on being a DJ. He was more. He did have a lot more life. He was more vibrant. He was funny. He was personable, and less of this kind of very authoritarian, super professional, but kind of lifeless radio style that was pretty prevalent in the military at that time. Okay, so everyone else came in uniform, and he decided not to. And I don't think this is ever explained, but that's usually a big no-no. Generally, here's the thing. Overseas, in modern days, they ask you don't travel in uniform a lot because of targeting. But I'm pretty sure back then in the 60s, it was like, yeah, you were in the military. You were definitely required to be moving around in uniform. So that's a bit thing. Forrest Whitaker characters saluting him. They're both enlisted. It's something the director must have thrown in. The guy, there's no reason this guy should be saluting him. Also, Forrest Whitaker always looked like he was over 40. Robin Williams, the oldest airman in the Air Force.
Mayday, Dragon Lady with an incredible figure at 11 o'clock. Stop the car.
I can't do that, sir.
Oh, Edward, you don't understand. I'm in a small Greek island with a lot of women who look like Zorba. I never thought I'd find women attractive ever again. And now that I do, you won't even turn the car around?
Can any of my people who've been stationed and or live there in Crete let me know if the women of Crete are really ugly? Because from this movie, I really didn't know much about Greek people before growing up. And this movie, I always Greek people must be ugly. Because he makes the joke a couple times referring to his previous duty station. And man, I've seen a lot of very, very gorgeous Greek people. Maybe it's just the island of Crete. I don't know. Anyway, John Stamos wept. Watch a lot of movies in the 80s and early 90s. You'll see those twins in a lot of places. For instance, they are in Terminator 2. They are a security guard who gets killed by the T2, which of course the T2 takes his form, which is just the twin. And they've been in a bunch of other stuff too. These guys are ones I remember as a kid. I always thought, hey, it's the chubby redheaded twin guys again. Also, odd bit of stuff here. He would have done like some kind of, even though being an experienced DJ, he would have gone, probably sat in on one other person DJing before this just to get the ropes at least. Their systems might be different. It's their whole way of doing it. I mean, every station is going to be different. And also, everyone is there at 6 o'clock ready to go. Not my experience working at the doing the morning show. It's usually just you, and maybe if you're lucky, a maintenance guy or two. But yeah, the entire office is inside waiting for hear the new DJ go off at 0600. It's generally not how maybe it was different back then. I don't know. Maybe in Vietnam, AFN, everyone was required to come in before 6 o'clock. But I just kind of highly doubt it. If he really had that much problem with his content on air, that lieutenant would have busted in on him on a commercial break or a record break long before this meeting. I don't know if this whole "there's only one type of beer available" thing is completely correct, but it sure sounds right to me. And I've definitely been to places in Asia where, the beer selection was pretty minute, and often you only had one kind of beer to get. When I was in Qingdao, China, that's where they make the Tsingtao beer. And guess what's the only thing you can get in Qingdao, China? Tsingtao. Also, the version of this movie I acquired apparently is the director's cut or something, because there's a lot of scenes in here I do not remember, and I watched this movie a lot when I was a kid. So kind of fun rewatching this now, because now I'm seeing new stuff I never saw before. I'd say something about his professionalism in this movie, but he's Air Force. No, you cannot say shitty weather and pissy weather front coming down from the front on AFN radio. Not now, not then. Still funny as hell. I love that concrete Walter Concrete impression. And of course, Roosevelt E. Roosevelt, one of my favorite characters in this movie. And no, you can't edit a press conference together of a former vice president and make a lot of sexual and other lewd, bawdy jokes, though pretty damn funny. Now, obviously, him reading unofficial news has consequences. However, are those consequences really realistic? I think it depends. The military is a weird place, but the way this movie is going, the way what they've done to the Cronauer character, and just all the rules he's breaking. He would have been disciplined long before this. He is, at least the way the character is being portrayed here, which is fine. It's a movie. He's definitely too outrageous for the air by any military standards. But yeah, the inappropriateness on the air is one thing, which probably would have got him stripped of a lot of things. If he was even allowed back on the air, he probably would have been editing in the back. But definitely after the whole debacle of reading unauthorized news, they were right. Probably looking at a court-martial, unless, like the movie, some general saved him. So having a general in his back pocket in this movie is pretty much the only way it's even slightly feasible, given what the character has done. I can be honest, I've never seen a officer on the air as a DJ. Actually, I don't think I've ever seen anyone over AE6 as a DJ. So, I'm definitely calling bullshit on the first lieutenant stepping in as a DJ. I doubt he's actually been trained in it. The office, he would be probably like some kind of public affairs officer. So doubtful unless he has a DJ background. I don't know. But I've never seen that. I've never heard of that. A little bit of interesting a scene here. We have a long scene of Forrest Whitaker and Robin Williams talking about, he's trying to convince Adrian Cronauer to go back on air, essentially, and says, well, if you're not going to go back on air, what are you going to do with your time? He says, look, maybe I'll go down to Saigon and look for a Vietnamese man named Phil. And then following scene, we run into one of the looks like one of the engineers, and he's also named Phil. So I'm kind of thinking somebody screwed up a line there somewhere. There's supposed to be a different name, but Anyways, apparently they kept it because normally in a movie script you wouldn't have two people named Phil, even though one of them is an imaginary construct. Not liking your DJ that you're working under as a AFN supervisor, it's probably annoying, even more so when basically you get overruled on disciplining by your superior. But sending him off to be killed possibly on an unsafe, dangerous road, it's a little extreme for getting rid of a DJ you're probably only going to have for another 9 months or so.
More dire need of a blowjob than any white man in history. That's funny.
And that pretty much wraps up Good Morning Vietnam. Again, one of my favorite movies. Enjoyed watching it again. It's been a while since I've actually sat through and watched this in a very long time. I don't remember when. I know I've got good chunks and bits of it on the ship back in the day, but yeah, it's the first time I've sat down and watched it in a while. I'm pretty happy. Not as egregious as I thought it was. It's more of an overall, like, this is just not correct. The historical inaccuracies, like just everything about the story kind of overwhelms more of my usual minor nitpicks. But in all honesty, this movie is, it's really trying to be mildly military, to use the trope term. There's a lot of confusion. Like, they keep just saying Army overall, and despite their, obviously he's an airman in the Air Force. He kind of refers himself to being in the Army, and did some other little stuff. Maybe Forrest Whitaker Garlic is a little overweight. I don't know, but anyways, fun movie. I'm glad to watch it again and do this little video. Hope you guys liked it. And I will get back to you in the future. Salty Seaman, signing off.